Lost in my mind, living through time. As deep as I'm searching, there's nothing I find that would give me a reason to give up my grind. So what, they don't hear you, who cares if they sleep? I'ma hustle to death till they wake to defeat. Never been the one to hide when the enemy seeks, trying to keep me close range cause they scared of my reach. And they telling me I'm cold cause they scared of my heat. Kill 'em one shot like we playing hardcore. Who's best out of five? Well, you know I'm top four.
Welcome everybody to the Motivation Conversation. This is a very special episode for the Deep in Conversation series. I have here with a very special guest, life coach Nene. I know her as Betty. She ain't want me to say that, but hey, we keep it real here on the show.
I'll let it pass.
This is episode 2 of Deep in Conversation series of the Motivation Conversation, and we're going to call this Life Strategies with Coach B. This is my very special guest. Welcome and thank you for being here. I appreciate your time. You know, as I always say, time's the most important thing in the world, and I appreciate you spending this time with me. If you want to tell a little bit about yourself before we hop in, that'd be great, and then we could get going.
Cool. But first, let me say thank you for having me on and inviting me. I greatly appreciate it. And as you said, I am Coach B. I am a transformation life coach that specializes in mental and emotional health improvement, along with self-esteem and confidence building. I pretty much teach, guide, and empower women. Specifically, my goal is for women to like deconstruct the story that they've been telling themselves that have kept them stagnant from moving forward. Or in repeated cycles that doesn't get them the results that they, are trying to achieve. And I pretty much strategically help them rewrite a more positive and empowering story to live unapologetically themselves, with a healthy, mental and emotional state. I believe in coaching the person, not the problem, because I feel like that gives them the tools and resources, and strategies to like face any challenge that may come if they have the tools and resources that they need for any problem versus just a specific problem.
Awesome. I like to say, it's great having a woman on the show and getting a different perspective and having, those intelligent opinions and just helping spreading the word for positivity for women as well. We talk a lot about racial inequality, but we often forget sexual inequality as well. So I really wanted to push to have you here for that reason, so we get some different perspective and well-rounded understanding, because as people know what the Motivation Conversation is about core understandings and principles. And I like how you put it, teaching the person and not the situation, and giving those better understandings. So thanks again for being here. I really appreciate that. And I'm sure we're going to have a good show. This is going to be fun.
We should.
I guess the first and obvious question is, what is a life coach?
A life coach is basically a person that helps people face their most challenging problems in life by guiding them or empowering them or teaching them through the process. It can be anything from limiting beliefs to confidence building to their behavioral habits, etc. And it's very present and future based. That's what makes life coaching different than therapy. Because I know some people are like, well, what's the difference between a life coach and a therapist?
Right.
And it also depends on what type of life coaching you're offering. For me, in my instance, my life coaching is therapy based. But I'm not a therapist, but it's therapy based. So you take the things that therapists would do and just bunch it up into life coaching to help people focus on the present and the future. Not so much as the past, but if there's something in the past that's stopping them from moving forward, yes, you would try to touch on that topic and see what you can do to help them move forward from it. There's a ton of different forms of life coaches out there that center on a specific problem, and they coach just on that problem. You might have like a mindfulness life coach that teaches you to be mindful and in the present and meditation, things like that. And life coaching is pretty much, it's not a done for you type of thing. It's pretty much the person has to be willing to take accountability for their lives. And the life coach, what we do, we're there to help guide you and teach you through the process. We're not going to hold your hand. We're not going to do it for you. You have to do it yourself, or otherwise you're not going to get anywhere.
Oh my goodness. You know, you just said literally my favorite word on this show, accountability. Accountability, the most powerful yet ignored word in the English language, in my opinion. Because people are so quick to point the finger of their problems at everybody else instead of taking accountability for the actions and the path they have chosen to take and understanding that perception. So it's amazing that you say that, because first and foremost, before you can have a life coach, before you can enjoy the motivation conversation, you must be willing to take accountability, and you must understand that no matter how much people like us try to push you in the right direction, it all comes down to you and you wanting to do it and you taking the steps and actions necessary to get there. But in order to do that, you have to be, one, truthful with self, and two, you have to practice accountability. And that's a very important thing. So I'm really, really glad that you said that, because that's somebody needs to make, you know, how it's like the more you know, somebody, accountability.
Right, the word.
Right.
Exactly. So, but that's very much what life coaching really is. But I think that's anytime you want to make a change in your life, or you want to change your, you know, paths, anything that you want to make a change for, you have to be accountable for it. Right. You know, 'cause otherwise you're not going to get anywhere. You know, and I wish I would have pulled my notes out on this for what I learned going through my own life coaching process about the 4 types of people that there is. I did not pull my notes out on that, so I don't know off the top of my head.
That's all right. I'll leave your description below, and they can pay for that.
Yes, yes, but definitely don't want to be one of those people that life happens to me. You know, there's a lot of people that have that mentality. Life happens to me. You know, those are the people that don't want to take accountability for themselves.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah, yes. That's a very good point. Those people that kind of sit back and don't take action. You know, what a lot of people fail to realize is that, you know, action and accountability go hand in hand really well. You know, because once you accept accountability for said actions, then you can act accordingly in your progression in life and becoming a better person. You know, and ultimately for you. And when you become better for you, you become better for the world around you, you know? So
exactly.
That's what people need to understand.
Exactly.
Well, you say that you primarily work with women and help empowering women, right? Yeah. So then what does it mean to you to be a strong, independent woman?
To me, what it means to me, being a strong woman, it means honestly, really, it means everything to me. It's like the foundation for which I built my life and my coaching around. But for me to even be as strong as I am, it did come with, unfortunately, you know, a lot of pain and failure, but also the most powerful wins that have gotten me to where I am now, mentally and emotionally. I just feel like being a strong person in general just gives you the fuel you need to like pursue the life you want, to balance your emotions, you know, to find that inner peace.
So do you think that you experiencing those trials and tribulations in such a real way, right, through your own perception of that experience, do you feel that those things were deemed necessary to put you in a place that you're in now? You see what I'm saying? Because do you think that a person can actually grow without trying to understand the wrongs they may have been through or troubles they faced? Do you think that's a pivotal part of developing your character?
Yeah, honestly, I really do. I know when I came into life coaching, I first of all didn't even really know what I wanted to. I just knew I wanted to be a life coach. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to coach in. I got like umpteen certificates for different types of life coaching.
Yeah, I see that. Right? So you're just well-rounded. One call handles it all.
Exactly. Because I feel like it was important to learn different strategies,
right,
you know, to implement and be able to help people in different ways.
right,
But when I came into life coaching, the reason why I singled out women and why I singled out mental and emotional health and self-esteem and confidence, and that why I singled that out was because of my own, you know, troubles in that area. You
right,
know,
right. So you kind of took your pain and turned it into a story to help motivate other people, right?
exactly.
Right. So it's like even for me, you know, I did motivation conversations because I feel like I've experienced a lot of things alone, so to speak, you know, in a sense to where I just had to kind of figure it out and, you know, and move through the course on my own, and you know what I mean? And then so I feel like if I can reach out to people who go through anything like what I've been through or what I'm going through and give them the guidance that I didn't feel I had, you know what I mean? Then that will make that situation much better. Not to say that it's not necessarily I'm not trying to avoid them from experiencing those things because I feel like a lot of those experiences are important in order for you to develop a true understanding. Like, you know, I can preach all I want to, but until you kind of, you know, I always tell my son, there's some things that I can teach you that you can stay away from, that you can use to help you save some stress. And there's some things that you just have to go through on your own because that's a part of life.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So
exactly. It definitely builds character.
Right. Yeah.
It builds character and it builds your strength, you know,
Right.
because you know that you didn't overcome, you know, you overcame something like that, you know?
Right, exactly. Because it's like, you know, to never go through anything and to be so sheltered is a problem in its own. You know what I mean? To never face any indifferences, you know, or tribulations or, you know what I mean, downfalls or setbacks or anything like that. To never have that experience is a problem in its own because it makes you naive to the realistic version of the world that we live in. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And then having that protection kind of makes you put your nose up at the world around you without understanding everybody else's perception, and it kind of narrows the way you think and closes your mind, you know, to certain things that really aren't prevalent to our existence. You know what I mean? It's just kind of this falsified reality that we've built, you know, or that person may have built because they don't really know, you know, they've been sheltered, you know what I mean? They never had to work for nothing.
Exactly. I was like, when we were talking on some things, I was going like, being like a life coach, I hear certain things, I'll be like, oh, that's the person telling me they got a fixed mindset. We got to get them a growth mindset. I was listening like, that's like a fixed mindset person. A person that just can't see it any other way. They think that's just the way it is. There's no change in it. Yeah, that's a person with that fixed mindset. Like, no, baby, they had a growth mindset, knowing that anything can change.
Yeah, it's so crazy. You know, I understand people having, you know, those like, I like to call them like hardcore like principles and beliefs, those things that you can't change. But I feel like those are more from a moral standpoint. You see what I'm saying? And I don't think that, I think people mistake their own moral visions with trying to understand somebody else, you know? Because, you know, I'm not trying to say that, you know, to have morals is a bad thing, but I really think that when it reaches a certain point, especially when it comes to try to relate to other people, our morals tend to get in the way. You know what I mean? Because we only have that one idea of what's right and wrong when it's not always so black and white.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So, well, I want to ask, what are signs people should look for when deciding it's time to reach out? What are some things where people feel like that people should look for to realize like, oh shit, I'm going down a slippery slope. I might not to reach, because, you know, I feel like one thing is that people don't want to take accountability and face that fact, right? And then another thing is that people wear these masks and lie to the world around them. It's hard for you to find yourself in that moment of vulnerability and not kind of turn into this robot that's just trying to satisfy everything around you to live in existence. You know what I mean? So what do you think some things people should look out for and be willing to accept when deciding they should
reach out for help? Honestly, first thing is asking for help is like the hardest thing I think some people find themselves doing, asking for help. I don't know if it's because they don't want to be a burden or they feel like no one can relate to what they're going through, but it's like you will know that you need help when you try to fix it yourself and you ended up with the same stagnant results.
Right.
Or you're feeling overwhelmed and stuck, and you don't know the next step to take. Like if you're doing it yourself and you just don't know the next step to take, or it's just really just overwhelming you to the point to where you just think that you're going to fall into some type of depression about it or whatever. Yeah, that's when you should reach out to someone who has knowledge in the area that you're having this issue in.
I think people are afraid to reach out because of social stigma, because information is produced so vastly, so quickly, and we're expected to take it all in for what it is, you know what I mean, at face value, right? And then so when you find yourself in a mental state of mind to where you're outside of that realm of what's, society, what society says is those things that we should do or how we should deal with them, I think that makes people vulnerable, and that builds a sort of a sense of weakness within self. You know what I mean? And I think because we live in such a, social media driven world, I think people want, we all want that acceptance from the world around us, right? So what happens is that at this point, we don't know how to separate the two. We don't know how to separate our personal life from the social media world, right? So people feel that, okay, well, if I reach out for help, you know what I'm saying, then the whole world's going to know about it. But really, that's only because you don't know how to keep your life separate, your personal life separate from social media. And you see what I'm saying? And I think people built this like imaginary bridge that keeps them from finding resources, to get from point A to point B in their life and across those hurdles. And so I think when it comes to fear, I really think that, social media and, just this rush of information and, this programming of who we should be as people kind of over floods our brain, and we're scared to be different. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Scared to be different and scared to really just acknowledge who we really are,
right?
And to acknowledge when you really need help. It's okay to ask for help. It is really okay to ask for help.
It's okay. Exactly.
It's definitely okay to ask for help. And that's what I try to push out when I'm posting things like on my Instagram page or my Facebook page. I try to pretty much put out there that it's okay to ask for help. Don't look at it like, you're weak or, you should know this already, because you don't know everything.
Here's the thing I want to tell people. If you're afraid to ask for help, then I think that means it's time to ask for help. If you have that fear, we're like, man, I need to ask for help, but I can't. I think it's time to ask for help. And then I also think that if you approach somebody expecting them to be that help that you're looking for, and they become judgmental or passive aggressive or dismissive or, belittling or whatever have you, I think that just means you went to the wrong person. And don't let that be the thing that discourages you from getting the help that you actually need to get through your situation. Because I don't care who you are. And, my best example is with, professional athletes and, these people that are in the limelight, they all needed help. We don't see that behind the scenes shit because they're exposed to us as these professionals, as these stars, as these, you know what I mean? And we don't know their real life. But there's nobody that we idolize or false idolize that hasn't had to reach out to somebody else to get a better understanding of their craft to help them get to where they are at that, extraordinary level of greatness. So I want people to realize here on the show that if you can't get to your level of greatness on your own, then reach out to somebody that's going to help you get to your level of greatness. And if you struggle finding those people, understand it's because you're surrounding yourself with the wrong people, and it's not you. Because we all have problems, and we're all people, and we're all human beings, and people need to surround themselves with people who are accepting of my true self when I take off my mask of society. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. That's very true. You might see me over here moving because I'm trying to like ghetto rig my phone.
Oh, that's good.
so it won't keep going out. You know, when you're doing Zoom and somebody's obviously phone is being
be calling you and stuff or whatever. Yeah.
No, that was just my battery telling me, "Hey, fam, you're on 20%. Plug it up."
Yeah.
I'm like ghetto rig my
that
phone.
battery cut everything off. Hey, I got my shit ghetto rig too. Look.
I'm telling you, I'm ghetto right. I got a tape dispenser up here holding it up. I'm telling you.
What do you think are some of the most common challenges women face in today's society? Like, go ahead. I'll let you answer that first, and then we'll go on.
Right. For me, honestly, what I think is losing ourselves. Like, we lose our identities in certain parts of our life. Motherhood, and I can speak on this because I'm a mother of 3. You know, of course, it's just your motherly instincts automatically kick in, and now your children comes first before anything.
Right.
In relationships, we do lose ourselves in relationships. You know, we put ourselves on the back burner because we want to make sure everybody else is okay and everybody else's emotions are met. And all while we're putting ourselves, like I said, on the back burner. So honestly, what I think the most, and some might disagree, but I really think that we really do lose ourselves. For some of the women that I do have on my personal Facebook page, you know, I see their mothers, and I see they post things like, you know, struggling with themselves in motherhood, you know, where they can't find themselves, they can't find time for themselves, they can't do this, they can't do that, you know, or whatever. And it's just like all about pretty much losing ourselves.
So do you think that this is something that kind of happens over a course of, say, situational circumstance? I have kids now, so I can't, you know, pursue ABC. You know, I have a family now, so I can't do this. I got bills to pay, so I can't do this. You know, that kind of inciting of fear, right? And those kind of regressive negative affirmations kind of play a role in our well, I can't say art because I'm a guy, but it does happen to everybody, but in women's subconscious, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know? And I think over a course of time and so much programming, you know, women have been, quote unquote, programmed to be seen a specific way or act a certain way or, you know, deliver themselves a certain way, which takes away their individuality, right?
Exactly.
And it turns them all into, you know, we all have this preconceived notion of how a woman should be, and how dare her go against the grain of what society has created. And it's sad because it's to a point now to where it's not all the woman's fault. You know what I mean? Exactly. This is something that's been developed and, you know, mastered over hundreds of years, you know, and ingrained in us, you know. And I guess the question is, as a woman who finds yourself, I'm not saying you per se, but let's say a woman that's watching this finds herself in a position of losing sight of who she is. And I think one big thing is that I want people to understand that I did an episode called "You Come First," you know, and it's like, you know, that self-care, right? Because, you know, a lot of people say, well, my kids come first, this person comes first. And I feel like I get what you're trying to say by saying, you know, my children come first, right? Exactly. But in the sense, I disagree, because if you don't put yourself first, right? If you're not in the best emotional state that you can be in, how can you provide your kids with the best emotional state? Because here's the thing, there's a lot of family, right? There's a lot of people who live their life putting their children first and forgot about themselves. One, when their children are gone and grown, now they don't know who they are. Right?
Exactly.
Because your kids eventually got to be adults and live their own lives. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so that's the biggest thing. And then 2, think about the ripple effect of that thought process that you have on your children. You see what I'm saying? Because that makes them lose sight of who they are, because it sounds like, okay, well, mommy's conforming, you know, so I mean, maybe little kids aren't, you know, don't think that intellectually, but still the base formula, you know what I'm saying? Your kids are just a representation of what goes on in their environment. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So if they see mommy conforming, you know, and giving up her self-worth for everything around her, that's eventually what they're going to grow to be.
And that's true. For some of the women that I have talked to, Or I'll see that they post a certain thing and I just try to give like, some positive, just give them like some positivity,
Right.
and to just let them know maybe you're just looking at it wrong, it's like you do have to put yourself first and not feel guilty for it.
Right.
It's okay to put yourself first, because I'm gonna tell you one thing: a tired soul ain't worth. Can we cuss on here?
Mm-hmm.
Because I be cussing even in my coaching sessions sometimes. But it's definitely necessary to put yourself first, because I'll tell anybody, a tired soul ain't worth shit.
Right.
It ain't worth, because you are you're just overworking yourself, whether you're overthinking it, whether you're just doing entirely too much. You have to make time, not find time. I hate the thing find time. If you have to find time, you'll never find it.
Right.
Make time to put yourself first. It doesn't have to be go a whole day without your children or being a mother. Find small intervals in between, your schedule to where you can implement some self-care routines, rather it's just taking 15 minutes to just go into a quiet place and just really focus on yourself, or to go read, or to maybe go, I don't know, girl, go do your nails, paint your toes.
Right. I'm glad that you said that, because that's the biggest thing that I try to drive, and you actually hit it like right on the head, and like you explained it in a great way, because I think that becomes an issue, is that people think that when you say you come first, that means neglect your responsibilities as a person. Right. That means that, and this is the thing, right? People always feel like it's one or the other. Either I'm on the back burner or my kids are on the back burner. It doesn't have to be that way. You can have a sense of balance, what I mean, to where you feel refreshed and you understand your self-worth and you appreciate that. And then you're able to deliver that energy unto people around you. And that, changes the effect that you have in your relationships with your children. You know what I mean?
It also changes the relationship you have with yourself. I honestly believe, because of the simple fact, I think that when we go into that mode of thinking that we have to put ourselves first, meaning we are neglecting our family and our children or whatever, that's all of that negative self-talk you tell yourself. And that's another big advocate that I'm on. I'm really heavy on the positive self-talk. You talk to yourself negative, if you ask yourself negative questions, you're going to answer yourself with negative answers. If you talk to yourself negative, period, that's just what you're gonna believe. Like what we tell ourselves is what we believe. And I'm like, your brain is a very powerful fucking tool.
Yeah.
Like if you speak to yourself kindly, if you speak to yourself positively, and that's what you're going to start to draw in. Like, for instance, if you just wake up and you just tell yourself today gonna be a shitty day, guess what's today gonna be? A shitty day. If you wake up and tell yourself I'm gonna have a good day, it's gonna go smoothly, ain't nothing nobody can do or say that's gonna ruin it, guess what? By the time you get home, your day been smooth. You know what I'm saying? It's what you tell yourself your brain is gonna go look for. You tell your brain to be negative, it's gonna look for negative. Tell it to be positive, it's gonna find positive.
Right. It's all about that perception and how you decide to carry, how you decide to carry yourself, versus, because like you said, whatever you go looking for. And it's crazy because so I'm one of those people who, because like I said, I went through a lot of stuff that I felt I had to sort out on my own. Right. So now I've become one of those people who talks to myself like a lot, like scared, like a lot, like to the level to where I'll talk to myself and then it'll be like a different, like I'll ask myself a question I don't got the answer to, and my other self be having the answer.
And they're gonna make up the answer. Real. But it will.
But what I've noticed, at what you brought up is a good point. What I've noticed is that even within true form of self, when you direct it in a negative fashion, you kind of reciprocate it back to yourself in a negative fashion. And you have this different type of mentality. And then when you say, even if you recognize it, like even if I'm trying to problem solve with myself, if I'm being negative, I'm like, why the fuck I gotta be going through this, saying that to myself? Myself is gonna be talking shit to myself instead of trying to solve the problem. You see what I'm saying? So it all starts with you, and try to change your attitude and just flipping that the aspect in the way that you think, your perception of thinking.
Exactly. And what I tell my clients that I do coach, when you feel that negative self-talk come up, change the narrative of it. Something come up and you be like, I can't do this. It's too hard. How about you just change it to I can do it, but I just might have to put more work into
my God.
Or if you tell yourself I'm not good enough. I am good. You could definitely switch that up. I am good enough. Let me go find what I'm good. Find things that you're good at.
Right.
And things like that. I'm like, I always tell people, take that, when you got that big old jar of negativity, deposit some positive things about yourself in there and watch how much more better you feel about yourself. Mm-hmm. Watch how more positive you talk to yourself. I'm like, it's all about the way you talk to yourself. If you talk to yourself negatively, if you ask yourself negative questions, you're going to get negative answers. And that's just how it really is. And I tell people the experiences that we go through in life is pretty much how our brain works, is that we take an experience, something happens, something happens to us. We ask a question, and depending on if that's a negative question or a positive question, we're going to put a meaning to it. Mm-hmm. So say if you go somewhere and you had a bad experience at, I don't know, a Starbucks or a McDonald's or something, and every time you go to that McDonald's, you go associate that bad experience with it because that's what you told that's what you told yourself. And it could have been a measly little 2-minute bad experience, nothing dramatic. So it's like we put meaning to our own experiences.
Right.
So, you can literally change the meaning. You can change a meaning to an experience if you want to. It's all about you just really taking the time to do it and taking accountability for yourself. That's where it really boils.
I got crazy geeked right there because literally just my last episode that I dropped on Tuesday, I said that exact same thing about about instead of saying it negative, take the same thing and say a positive. Instead of saying, well, I can't do this because I'm not good enough, say I can do this because I'm capable, I'm good at this, or I can do this because I have this skill, or what I'm saying. I don't want people. Okay, look, this is what I want people to understand. It is very necessary in growth to understand your flaws in character, your flaws in perception, your flaws in direction, and so on and so forth. These are all we are not saying to make yourself oblivious to the thought process of, oh, I fucked up, I need to do better. That's not what's being said. What's being said is that you need to take this negative instance and reality and situation you've been in and take the lesson out of it and understand that that's a positive so you can grow beyond that situation or from that or within that situation to help elevate you to where you're trying to be.
Exactly.
And I started saying this saying, I don't know if anybody made it. It like came to me one day, but I listen to a lot of motivational shit, so I don't know. But I like to say that we fear our future because of our past. No one fears their past because of their future, because your past has already happened, right? Exactly. So you're no longer afraid of that because of what might happen in the future. That's not our thinking, right? We think and we fear our future because of things that we may have been through, and now we've associated these negative words and give it, like you said, these negative meanings to associate with those things to keep us from driving beyond that point. Which is not to say that negative situation wasn't necessary upon the steps of growth, but a lot of people have a problem recognizing that this is not failure. There's a difference between failure and experience. You see what I'm saying? And then we get stuck up in this timeline of development, right? We feel like I have to be able to accomplish this in this amount of time, and if I don't, then I failed, regardless of how much progress I've made in that amount of time. If I didn't get to the point that I thought I was designated to be at, now I failed, which is not the case.
Exactly. The thing with failure, what I try to also teach is that don't look at it as failure. You might not have got the end results that you were hoping for, But like you just said, there are so many other things that worked in your favor,
right,
that you can take away from that and go plot on it and go right back to the drawing board with what did work. What did
right,
work? What did work? How can I take this and expand it to this or expand it to that? And I was like, don't look at anything as like you completely failed. No, because there was some lessons to take away from that
right,
was wins. Look for your
right.
wins. Don't just look for the negative.
And
I tell people, I'm like, don't go around thinking I'm trying to tell you, oh, life is rainbows and unicorns and shit.
right, that's what I say.
No, that's not true.
Right.
But I'm also trying to also teach you that being being more positive, looking at things from different perspectives in life definitely gives you more choices for more outcomes.
Right, exactly. Right. And I think and so I think what happens is that, like you said, people don't reach that timeline. And if you as a person, right, are watching this and going through something, or not even going through something, let's say you're trying to accomplish something, something, and you set a standard for yourself as to the goal in a time frame. You set a time frame standard for yourself, and you don't quite reach the threshold, so to speak, that you expected to when you went after that time frame has passed. Let's say you got a year goal, right? And in a year, you've only made it so far, but not quite as far as you expected. What people need to, if they can find any positive gains in that in itself is a positive gain, because there's so many people that sit back and is still dwelling on that idea. The fact that you took step one and start pursuing that goal and challenging yourself to get to where you want to be is positively enough to show you that you're capable, which in turn changes your history, your past, right? Because you think, I said this on another episode, you think, let's say you got a 5-year plan, right? And in 5 years, you've only, made it with which you're like, damn, I could have did that. I should have been able to do that in 3. So now I failed. No, you didn't. But so if you look at your past, now your past has become those 5 years that you spent. So now when you look at your past and you're like, man, 8 years ago, I wasn't doing shit. I was depressed. I was dwelling on this. And then just 4 years ago, I start moving. And now 5 years, I'm here. I'm not quite where I want to be, but now I've progressed. And people lose sight of that progression because we always want that. We're always chasing the end result, and nobody's understanding the gains within the work.
Exactly. I had this conversation before about being so future based, living very future based, fucks up a lot of shit for you. I'm going to keep it 100. If you only live to see your future, you are never going to be happy. Why are you never going to be happy? Because you're not taking the time to appreciate everything that's going on now. You're only looking at your future goal. You're looking at, okay, in a year, I set this for myself, but I haven't gotten there. But you haven't looked at all of your accomplishments that you have done before that year ended. You might have done some very powerful shit. Right. And you don't give it any recognition because you didn't get to your end goal. And I tell people all the time, baby steps count. Small wins count. They can pack some very powerful motivation for you to keep going. Yeah, it's small, but you did it. Keep going.
Right. You can't get to step 10 without step 1. So why not recognize that you took step 1?
Exactly. And then another problem can also be, which I wish people will look at when you're setting goals for yourself. I wish people will look at how they are setting goals for themselves. What is your goal setting strategy? Do you have a strategy for setting your goal, or do you just say in a year I'll be a homeowner? Okay, so what do you need to do to become a homeowner in a year, instead of just putting that on your vision board or putting that down on a piece of paper? You need to have steps.
Most people
have action.
Most people fail to plan. Most people fail to plan. No one plans to fail. Right.
Exactly. And it's like, even in my coaching, I also teach, it's not something that I focus on all at once, goal setting and achieving, because I try to throw it into my sessions anyway. But definitely teach people how to effectively goal set so they can actually achieve these goals that they're doing, and my favorite one is the 4 square. You know,
oh yeah. Oh yeah, I know. I think I know. You talk about business, the business squares.
It's not just business squares. It's life squares. You got your who, you got your who, your what, your why, and your when. You know, like why, you know, who are you doing it? You know, who you doing it for? Why are you doing it?
Right.
When will you get it done?
Right.
You know, things like that, and then also learning how to go and set tasks into your daily schedule to where you can focus maybe 15 minutes towards that goal. So every day you feel like you're doing something to get you towards that goal.
Right.
You know, so it's all about what are your goal setting strategies? What are you doing? Are you just plopping it on a vision board? Or are you just telling yourself that that's what you want to do?
Yeah, because a lot of people just say they're end game and don't really strategize as to how we'll go about getting to that end game. And that's a lot of reasons why people have that quote unquote failure, right? That feeling of failure, because they don't even know the path to take. You know what I'm saying? And before you can achieve anything, you must first understand the path necessary to get there. You know, and it's okay, you know, at the motivation conversation, I preach a lot about it's okay to understand the path, but then do it in your way, because then you're not doing it for you. It's kind of safe mode when you take a path already written out or, you know, already paved out and do it that exact same way. You should definitely study that road and understood what it took for that person to get there, but you got to transform that into your own kind of perception and delivery. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know, I always tell people there's a difference between kind of copy and paste and replicating somebody and then gaining motivation from somebody. You know?
Exactly. You'll find yourself in a comparison cage if you try to replicate somebody else. So you're gonna find yourself comparing yourself to that person, and that's gonna be the first. That's your first fuck up right there. Is comparing yourself to someone else. You put yourself in this comparison cage, and that's where all that negative self-talk is gonna come in, because you're seeing what this person is doing, and you're trying to do it, but it's not working for you like it's working for that person.
But you're not that person.
Exactly, you're not that person. So I always tell people that do find themselves in that comparison cage, you know, not just business wise, it could be in life in general, where you're just comparing yourself to other people. You know, first of all, you are yourself. Your journey is your journey. Your wins are your wins. Your losses are your losses. It will not affect that person or how, no way. So you are your own person on your own journey. Yeah, it's nice to see this person's life and maybe, you know, feel empowered. You know, like, damn, that person did it. Well, you know, I should, you know, I can do it too, you know, or take what this person does so well and see, is it something you do well in that area as well, you know? So it's not like trying to replicate that person.
Yeah, I think where the failure comes in is that instead of using it as a motivational tool, because like I said at the beginning of the show, how social media is structured, it becomes a vision of envy, right? And that creates jealousy, and that creates failure. You know, you know, instead of using it as a way like, shit, I could get there, because you can get all that shit, you know, but in your own way. And that's the thing, right? Is that you when you see somebody else doing it, you set your expectation based on them. You don't set your expectation based on self.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? And then now you start to try to pull in their moral views and try to live as them. Now you become that person and you lose sight of self again. You see what I'm saying? And then once you accomplish that point, you're not fulfilled because it's not who you are in your own way. You know what I mean? So when people's like, oh, you know, that motherfucker got a nice car, that don't mean you need to have that same car. Maybe something nice to you is, you know, what's your realm of respectability? You know what I mean? What's value to you? You know what I mean? Just because you see something shiny over there, that don't mean it's going to shine in your house.
For you. Exactly.
You know?
That is very, 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 very true. You know, and it's unfortunate that most people can't look at someone else's wins as motivation, you know, because even for myself, there are a ton of life coaches, you know, out there that's well known. They to the point where they can be called gurus, you know, and stuff like that. And how I look at it as motivation. I look at it like, well, what do they do to draw in their crowd? You know what I'm saying? Maybe I could take some notes from there and, you know, make it my own to draw in my crowd. You know, it's nothing about envying that person, because I know whatever that person did to get to where they got to, ain't got nothing to do with me and my journey. You know what I'm saying? That person wins, losses, failures, everything where they was their own. And that's why they're where they are right now.
And people get it mixed up easy because they see what they want to be and what they want to do, and they feel like they take the same journey. So like a doctor motivates me to be a doctor. I think I got to be a doctor the way they were a doctor, and that's where you get stuck up in that box of comparison, like you were saying, right?
Yes,
and their journey, we can have the same end goal, but we have to do it in our own way.
Different.
Right, exactly.
Yes, you can have the same end goal, but your journey there will be different than that person you're comparing yourself to.
Right.
So like I tell people, so give yourself more credit for what you're doing right now in your life. You know what I'm saying? Give yourself, that's why I said that positive self, that positive self-talk comes in, and being able to be appreciative of the moment, which we love to call in life coaching mindfulness. Practice mindfulness. A lot of people don't know how. First of all, probably don't even know what the hell. What do you mean mindfulness? Like, what is that? That's just pretty much just being grateful, being grateful, being in the moment, being grateful for being in the moment. And understanding that you can't control everything.
Yeah, I like that. I like that phrase, being grateful for being in the moment. That's a real powerful statement, because nobody really does that. It's hard to do because we're always go. Next thing, what's next? What now? What I need to prove next, what I need to prove, what I need to do,
Exactly.
And we forget to be grateful that we're blessed enough to be in this moment to where we get to chase our dreams, or like it's even a blessing to face a struggle when you're struggling, when you're trying to get to where you want to go, because without the blessing of that struggle, you cannot grow and develop your understanding of the situation.
That is so true. And I'm also myself an advocate for being for practicing mindfulness, for being grateful for being in the moment. Yes, I do have future goals that I'm going for, but I'm not living my life just future based. I'm not looking at my end goal and looking at where I am now and realizing that I might not even be close to my end goal, because the only thing that's going to do is just cause anxiety. Might make me feel like I'm not doing enough. I don't do that. What I do is I appreciate myself for everything that I've done now. I count my small achievements, my large achievements. What have I done now to get me to where I, to be able to appreciate?
So you recognize this is working. It's important for people to recognize, like, this is working because I've done A, B, and C.
Exactly. I've done A, B, and C, and I know if by me doing A, B, and C, my future goal that I have set, I'm going to get there, because first of all, I'm being mindful of all the things I've done now, giving myself that motivation to keep going, because I know I got these small little accolades under my belt. All right, that my end goal is nothing, because I'm not just staying just future based. So that's very important. Just like I said, being mindful and being grateful for being able to be.
Yeah, I mean, if you're always living in the future, you're never going to get there, because it's the fucking future.
It's the future. First of all, it's the future, and second of all, the future you might be setting yourself up for. There might be a total bigger, better plan for you.
Right.
And here you are so tunnel vision on this one goal, and there might be a whole better outcome if you just take this, stop, pause, and be grateful for being in the moment, so that way you can recognize everything that you have going on around you already. You know what I'm saying? So to me, that's very powerful, because that brings you so much peace. It brings you so much more peace, and you find yourself being a little bit more happier with your life. You know what I'm saying? Versus just looking at your future and seeing how far you have to go from. I'm like, I can't live like that.
I can see how that could be stressful.
And it is stressful. I'm like, I can't live my life like that. That's nothing but unnecessary stress I'm adding to myself. So that's why. That's so.
Well, since you empower women, few things. One, how can women empower each other in today's society? How can women empower themselves? And then how can everybody as people bring a better sense of equality or feeling of equality to women?
Honestly, I feel for women, empowering empowering, I got tongue tied, us empowering our, each other. I think it's just understanding that your fellow sister is not your competition. That's one thing we have to understand. She's not your competition. She can probably teach you some things that you didn't even know. And you could probably teach her some things that she didn't even know. And look how y'all just empowered each other, by looking at it like she's not my competition. We can do this together. I think that's the main thing when it comes to women, is that fact that looking at them as competition. And I say this because I was in this group, and the person that that owned that owned her little group, her little tribe and everything. She's a really great woman, and I was glad that I crossed paths with her because along the way I kind of got to know myself a little bit better, because of what she does. And as time progressed on and you get to knowing yourself a little bit better, you find the need to not always have to like be involved in everything that's going on in that group, not to watch every live that she posts or whatever, because that's you taking accountability for yourself and knowing what you need to do to fix yourself. And and me myself, I helped her in other ways with her business as well. I like to call myself a jack of all trades. but you can be a master of nothing, and that's my thing, is like I've always been like a go-to person for a lot of people, and I love that because naturally I help people. I love to naturally help people. But like I said, I helped her in ways, and she helped me in small little powerful ways too. And I remember with my coaching, trying to get my coaching more out there. I wanted to like offer a free group coaching on confidence or whatever. And it's just pretty much, it was going to give me the practice, because you can never have enough practice in your life when you're in a profession. You go out there, you get the experience that you need to be able to do certain things. So and I just asked this, like, hey, can I post my group coaching thing in your group? I know that this is your group, this is your house that you built, so it's only right that I ask before just going to go plaster myself in your thing. And she was like, yeah. But 2.5 seconds later, she like took the message, but how Facebook got it where you can take the message back now? Yeah. Like she went back and she took the message back, and she goes and she sent me a longer text message. She was like, after thinking about it, I built this group, and I don't think it's best right now, blah 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 blah, a whole bunch of other stuff. Yeah, people. And I was like, cool, I understand. That's why I asked first. I would never want to step on anybody's toes.
But isn't it annoying? Isn't it annoying that so many people become so let me think of a good word. It's annoying that so many people become so like self-righteous and protective of their knowledge, right?
Exactly.
And their platform and their ability to help somebody else grow. It's crazy because I was scrolling on Facebook, right? And this thing came up, and this chick was talking about, she was like, what's wrong with Black people is that, they don't ever give each other like support and advice. And she was like, my homegirl was starting a company. My homegirl successfully built the company, whatever it was, right? And she was like, so I wanted to build a company. So I asked her what she do. And she was like, girl, I made a whole bunch of sacrifices. It's like, yeah, but what sacrifices? She's like, girl, I was just praying. And yeah, but what? Like, give me some steps, right? And then but the thing that got me is that I started reading the comments, right? And people were like, people were like defending this, like, oh, why you gotta, take all her knowledge and, reach out to her. Why can't you go figure it out for yourself? But then it's like, isn't that part of me figuring out for myself? In order for me to figure out, I have to be able to express my thoughts to somebody who has the knowledge that I'm seeking.
Exactly.
What do I do?
Exactly. And that's how I felt in this instance with the girl that I was talking to, this little story I was talking about. Because like I said, I've been rocking with her group platforms and all that type of stuff and supporting her. I even built her website for You know, I set up her little booking thing, linked all her shit together for her and everything.
Right. But then people start feeling threatened.
And that's
but for no
exactly
reason.
what I think. And that's exactly what I think it is. But it was so weird to me because after she went and she said no, I accepted it because, like I said, that's her group. Right. You know, that's your people. I can't be mad at that. You right. know, so it was, and that was the end of the story. You know, and I was so I went on my own personal page and posted it. Right. You know, and I also went on my business page and posted it. Right. And I don't know if she got wind of, like, she's seen it, and seeing that I was trying to get people to come to my Facebook group, my private Facebook group that I created, which I created way back in February of 2020. I just never promoted it or tried to get people to join it because I had my focus was on other things with my
right. It was just kind of your thing to make it a reality. If I make a Facebook group, then I gotta go through with it now.
Exactly. And it had been sitting there since February 2020. Yeah. You know, I was posting things in it because I didn't want people to come in. It was like absolutely nothing in it. I'm big on research, you know, how to build your own Facebook group, blah, 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 blah. But my thing was, I wasn't trying to take anyone away from her group, you know? Right. So, and when she seen that, obviously the call was, the meeting was going to go to the group, I think she thought that maybe I was trying to take people from her group, so it could have been a misunderstanding. So what she goes and do, she blocks me from everything. Wow. Everything. I was actually an admin in her group.
I think people become misguided in like their insecurities of leadership. You know what I'm saying? Like there's so many people out here that are leaders but are so egotistically driven, you know what I'm saying? Exactly. That lose sight of what their role is. And like understand that what you put out into the world is going to come back to you. That's just how it works. So if you're helping somebody, how could it ever take away from me helping you gain exposure? How would that ever take away from me?
And that was my thing, you know. I mean, I didn't go on Facebook. I didn't rant about it. I didn't do any of the such, you know, because I'm in a place, you know, now where that type of shit like that doesn't faze me, you know, because honestly, to be honest, I am my own self-taught life coach, but I'm certified. I'm certified, and my coaching is also listed in the Complementary Therapist Association. And you got to go through so many hours of credits for life, like, you know, coaching or whatever. And to be listed in their directory. So which is why I say my coaching is therapy based, but I'm not a therapist. But no, I'm like, I could have never taken anything away from you because we weren't even in business for the same thing. You teach something, you do something totally different than what I do.
But even still, even if you guys were in the same thing, who gives a shit? Because you guys your delivery's not the same, your direction's not the same, your ideal's not the same.
What we're teaching and how we're teaching it is not the same.
Right, you see what I'm saying? You know? So why shut the world out to another perspective, you know, simply because you're I mean, I don't understand it. I get what people are thinking. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I have this thing of like extreme empathy. So even when people are fucked up, I get the reason for them being fucked up, even though I don't agree with this. So I try to teach them a different way. You know what I'm saying? But in order to understand, you must understand the fucked up too. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. So, and that's why I came to that topic of understanding. Oh, well, I'm gonna say topic, but my statement of understanding your fellow sister is not your competition. Right. You know, so that's why I went into that story to show that it's not, you know, you can hurt yourself more, you know, thinking that this person is your competition than to come into to thinking like, yeah, we can work together. We can be a dynamic duo.
And in the end, what's wrong with friendly competition?
That's true. Exactly.
That's motivation.
But exactly, you know, and I'm a firm believer of what's meant for me can't be taken from me anyway. Right. You know, so I don't know if it was if I was intimidating in a way, because, you know, like I said, I worked with her closely. She knew what I was about. She knew about my life coaching. She knew what I was doing, you know. So, and I know what she doing in her business.
But at the same time, you never know a person's personal insecurity when they go lay in bed at night, you know, when they go take away from their day and, you know, deal with all the stresses that they have to deal with from their perspective of the world. we don't know the absolute truth of that situation. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And
Kind
that's
of
so
as
true. And which is
outsiders.
why I said when it all happened, I didn't take it personal at
Right.
all. I
Yeah,
had
right.
no
Because,
ill feelings.
right. She's her own person. You're your own person. The only thing you can control is yourself. So, and that's what a lot of people got to learn too, is that when things don't go your way with other people, because there are people, like that, or, and many facets of, support, or, kind of like the self-righteous kind of like egomaniac, and kind of like insecurity that deal with insecurities of themselves, and they do it, and they may be doing what they're doing to help build themselves and their own securities. So when you go step into somebody else's world, you have to learn to respect the things that you don't understand.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And you have to learn to respect the unknown, because there's no way that you can know, or me for another person can know every dimension that goes on in that other person's life that causes them to be the person that they are. So you just
exactly. And that's exactly where I feel like for women to empower each other, it's not always look at each other as competition, because that is such a bottom of crabs in a barrel type mentality to me. If you're looking at her as your competition, when instead of looking at it like, how can y'all bounce off of each other? You know what I'm saying? How can y'all take it further?
Do you think that it happens more from an insecure perspective, or more from kind of a narcissistic perspective?
To me, I feel it's an insecurity. Women might not want to admit it, but we are very emotional beings. We move off emotions.
Who don't know that by now?
women, we don't. But it's a harsh truth that we just have to understand. We are emotional beings, and we do move off of emotions.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things for women is security and insecurity. If you are secure in everything you do, you don't have to worry about anything. But even the most powerful woman that we look at, or we might admire or look up to, have some type of insecurity.
Right. So go ahead. I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying. So I really feel like for women, when it comes to that competition mentality, it is insecurity. She might look at that woman and feel like, she might be the better woman for some, for whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? Because that's that negative self-talk. Once again, she's telling herself,
people, they need to understand it's not better. It's not better. It's just different.
It's different.
This is a different person's life, a different path. You're a different person with a different path.
That's where learning how to look at things from different perspectives is so huge. You might be looking at, take for instance, you might be flying in a helicopter over, over the ocean, and you see the top of that iceberg, but because you're flying over from the top, you can't see all of how big that fucking iceberg really is, because you can only see it from the top. You're only seeing that little tip at the top. You're not seeing how big it is because you're not looking at it from a different perspective. If you learn how to look at things from a different perspective, like I said, that gives you more options and it gives you more outcomes to choose from. So it does come from, like I said, when come from that competition mentality, it's because of an insecurity. It's something deep within themselves that they're insecure about. I wouldn't really say it's from a narcissistic place, because for me, when I think of a narcissistic person, I think of a person that just doesn't think they're wrong in any aspects of life. Like nothing that they're doing is wrong. It's always the other person, or a gaslighter and things like that. But then you also come to find out that, narcissistic people, to me, build this image to their community, to their friends, to their followers. They built this loving image. So when the truth about them comes out,
I need to pick up a mirror. No, I'm playing.
no, seriously. So when the truth about them comes out, people will be like, "Nah, that's not them. That'll never be them. They don't even sound like them."
That's funny.
So when the ugly truth about this person really comes out about who they really are, you don't know what to believe. You don't know what to believe because the person is such, that's what I think of with the whole narcissistic thing when it, for anybody, but for women, when it comes
they kind
to
of like build this facade.
They do. They build this facade, and they, to me, I always thought a narcissistic person was like, I always looked at them as like a predator. They're like a predator.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, because they kind of like take weaker minded individuals and use that to establish their strength and dominance.
To set their foundation. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. So, like I said, while they're doing all their dirty things in the background, and when that shit comes to light, people be like, "Nah, that don't even sound like that."
Right.
You're crazy.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like that's what I think of when it comes to a narcissist. But as far as women, I think when they look in that competition frame, I think it's more of an insecurity thing, honestly.
So how does a woman motivate herself past those insecurities? What are maybe some simple methods that a woman could use to kind of retrain her brain? Because it's going to take time. Obviously, it's like a constant affirmation, right? It's something you have to reiterate daily or something like that. But what's something simple maybe they can incorporate into their lives for a boost to self-esteem or, to motivate themselves?
I'm going to take this off of my notes because I did do some confidence.
Oh, nice. Yeah, let's
boosters. Go. I did. But first, when we talk about confidence, I just want to make it known that confidence is something you build. You have to build confidence. Yeah. And like anything you build, it takes time, patience, and dedication. So like I tell people, like, look at confidence as building a muscle. Build a muscle.
Oh,
like when you go to the gym or when you're ready to like build muscle. Right. You gotta change your eating habits. You gotta work out. And you gotta go to the gym. I don't know, hell, like 3-4 times a week. Right. And build these muscles up. And you're not gonna see results right away because it takes time to see it. So confidence is the same thing. Confidence is like, look at it as a muscle that you're building. Right. It's not something that you just accomplish overnight, but you can do things to get you there daily. And some of my self-confidence boosters that I live by is like discovering your inner strength. Mm-hmm. Learn, once again, to talk to yourself in a positive and encouraging way. Like you're speaking to your best friend. Tell yourself things that will help encourage you. Right. What do you need to do to help gather your strength?
So kind of like the shit that you seek, the validation that you seek from other people, learn how to give yourself that validation.
Exactly. That too. Know yourself. Mm-hmm. It's know yourself, like what we were talking about earlier. Make a list of your strengths and your capabilities. Make a list of your daily accomplishments. Make a list at the end of the day with all the things you accomplished. Mm-hmm. List your major achievements. Think about all the things you've already accomplished. Right. Learn to motivate yourself. Right. And learning how to motivate yourself is like, it's thinking like, okay, real justified confidence comes from the ability to achieve your goals. And, and achieving your goals largely comes from being able to motivate yourself. So it's like you go hand in hand, Right. And then challenge your mind on a regular basis and work at it every day. When I say challenge your mind, I mean, go read something new. Go do some brain teasers or, things that you would never really do, things that just really challenge your mind that you wouldn't ordinarily,
just kind of get out of that realm of comfortability that kind of has you in that.
Exactly.
Being stagnant.
You definitely have to, and those are just small things that you can do, like build your confidence. To like really get that confidence, like really going, there are so many other steps. You got to figure out, why does this person lack confidence? What area of your life are you lacking confidence? How can you get over the fear, the fear that's keeping you from being confident? It's so much more goes.
If I don't mean to interrupt, but if you guys have any questions about any of this stuff, Coach B's link is in the description. It will be in the description. She can answer all these questions. I can't. That's why she's here.
I can't. I have so many. I teach that to women that come to me for confidence building. It's definitely about that whole, I mentioned earlier, that whole fixed and growth mindset. Mm-hmm. First of all, we have to know what your mindset is. Is your mindset on a fixed mindset or is it on a growth mindset? You don't know? Well, guess what? I have an assessment to break it down to you to figure out if you have a fix or you have a growth. If you have a fix, guess what? It's not the end of the world. You can change it. Right. You know, you can change your mind to a growth mindset by following A, B, C, D steps, you know, to get you to, you know, your end goal. And by the time you're done, guess what you are? Confident. Right. You know, because you didn't change the whole way you thought about it. You know, you thought about confidence, you looked at confidence, or you thought confidence was, you know. Right. So those, like I said, those to start are some smaller things, you know, just discovering your inner strengths, know yourself, list your major achievements, learn to motivate yourself, challenge yourself, and do it daily.
You look like you looking at your paper like you want to tell somebody a big thing. You looking like you got some information you're holding back.
No, actually, no, I don't. The only thing I have on here is just my group my private Facebook group that I was talking about.
Uh-huh.
Well, I didn't really talk about it.
The link will be in that too. We're actually I might press you to bring it up. I don't want you to say too much because it's like a private group. You know what I'm saying? Just maybe like an outline, and we could get to it. Go ahead. Oh. I was like, we'll get to it later because I was actually at the end of the show going to ask you a little bit about your private group. So we will get to that. So just keep it in the back of your mind. Yeah, because I feel like that's important for people to know that, you know, as earlier we were talking about, you know, that stigma with reaching out for help because of societal struggle. Need more? Link to part 2 of Life Strategies with Coach B can be found below. And if you're listening via audio podcast, please check the main page for part 2 of Life Strategies with Coach B. This is Eric Harris from the Motivation Conversation. Whatever your it is, get it.
Lost in my mind, living through time. As deep as I'm searching, there's nothing I find that would give me a reason to give up my grind. So what they don't hear you, who cares if they sleep? I'ma hustle to death till they wake to defeat. Never been the one to hide when the enemy seeks. Trying to keep me close range cause they're scared of my reach. And they telling me I'm cold cause they're scared of my heat. Kill them one shot like we playing hardcore. Who's best out of 5? Well, you know I'm top 4. And these niggas more ass than the underwear drawer. Thought I left but I'm back like I ran to the store. Even more cold like I came out of storm. As I walk through the dark as a spark. Trying to put a